Make sure your hamstrings stay supple and strong. Also, when you're at your desk at work, you can, instead of sitting in a computer chair, just get an exercise ball and sit on that. Remember, good boaters boat some of the time, but great boaters boat all the time. And what I mean by that is even when you're not in your boat, you can actually be in your boat. Everyday activity can actually become small opportunities to train. There's been times in my life where I wasn't able to be in my kayak. However, I found little opportunities to work on my posture. One time, I actually worked at Domino's Pizza before a World Championship kayaking event, folding pizza boxes. And I actually would stand on one foot and maintain my vertical posture while folding pizza boxes. I would suck in my belly button to my back, and I would practice breathing. And that small act really helped me to maintain my fitness while doing an everyday activity. Always look for opportunities to improve your fitness in everyday mundane tasks. That will help your kayaking immensely. All right, here we have Dee Nikovic, my good friend, and she's in a Perception kayak here. And I've already gone over the important aspects of adjusting and sitting in the boat. Now we're out here on the water, and I'm going to talk to Dee about how to properly hold her paddle. So what Dee's going to do is she's going to take her left hand, and she's going to take her left hand, and she's going to take her paddle, and she's going to turn it around. So you're going to turn it all the way around, all the way around, all the way around, and she's going to trade this side of the paddle. She's going to flip the paddle around like a helicopter and change the she's going to have her right hand where her left hand now is. So yes, you're holding the paddle backwards right now, Dee. There you go. Outstanding. Now Dee's got the paddle in the right position. So what she's going to do now is she's putting it on her head, and she's getting her arms in a 90-degree angle. This is a simple way for you to check your paddle each time. Paddling, incidentally, is a lot like bench pressing. You don't want to have one hand in the middle of the bar and one hand on the end, or your weights will fall off. Holding a paddle is the same way. You want to have your paddle on the shaft and your hand on the shaft equidistant from the blades. So as you can see with Dee, both her hands are equidistant from those blades, and her knuckles are going to be lined up with the edge of the blade. So your knuckles right here, Dee, and she's going to line the knuckles up with the edge of the blade, so when she plants her paddle stroke, she'll be ready to get the most effective and powerful stroke. All right, Dee, now you're ready to begin, so put your paddle in the water. So Dee's going to take some beginning paddle strokes. Very good, Dee. And Dee's goal here is to work on just really extending and rotating her body. Some people might have issues with this at first because it takes a little time to build the strength necessary in your torso and in your core and the flexibility in order to maintain a good forward stroke. Dee's doing an outstanding job here. Note, she's not trying to use her arms too much. Dee's really taking the time to really attempt to use her body and not her arms to make this paddle stroke. She's really working on good rotation, and she's doing an outstanding Outstanding job. All right. She's paddling around here. Really focused on her forward stroke, because the forward stroke is the elementary part of kayaking that is so necessary to success. If you take the time to learn this craft properly, you'll become a master craftsman. If you don't take enough time in the early elementary phases of your boating, you won't get very far. So it's important, as with anything, to build a good foundation for the sport. Well, Dee, I really thought you did an outstanding job there paddling. One thing I want you to try to focus on is, remember that your paddle is kind of a big old lever, and the water is like a fulcrum. And so when you're paddling, in order to get the maximum proper force application from your lever, you want to make sure you plant it in a good place on your fulcrum to get a proper pull. So the farther you can reach forward without compromising the integrity of the movement, the better. So what I like to try to do is plant my paddle up near where my feet are in the boat. So in your boat, Dee, your feet are probably about right here. That's a good measure of where your paddle stroke should go. Once again, that's why it's important to get that rotation. Notice how much farther, when I rotate correctly, I'm able to reach. If I'm only using my arms, I'm only going to be able to reach to here and pull. But if I'm using the rotation of my body, look how much farther I can reach. That's about 6 more inches. And that's going to make the difference between a good, effective stroke and a stroke that won't take you very far. Now, in the early stages of your paddling, hopefully you won't be in anywhere where there's going to be any peril. But as you progress as a boater, you're going to want to start running harder streams. That's why it's very necessary when you're running a harder stream. Sometimes you don't have all the time in the world to build up speed in order to make a move. Therefore, it's really pertinent for you to someone to be able to take that paddle and make every stroke count.